Mr. Connor?
Chris Connor, Millington. I'd like to comment on the allegations that Dennis Sandow is dictating policy to the Township Committee. As most of you know, sitting up there, I got active about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more, because I had become disenchanted with the way the town had been run. I felt that it was somewhat closed, and certainly I was getting very tired of paying increased taxes. My initial support was to Ms. Genovese, and you know, I worked on that campaign. Clearly, when I worked on that campaign, there were 3 major items I was interested in, and I think most of the people were interested in. One was controlling taxes. Second was having open communications. And third was getting citizen input and taking advantage of the broad range of talents that are in this town. The time I started working for the former mayor, I had no idea who Dennis Sandow was. Obviously, I've met Dennis since then, and as most of you know, I've been active over the last couple of years trying to help, in my way, make the town a better place to live. I can say that the idea of citizen input is not Dennis Sandow's idea. Certainly it was an idea that I had, you know, 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and articulated those things certainly recently when former Mayor Genovese was running for office. My experience is that the people that worked on the various campaigns and met with the community all had similar thoughts. This was not the apparition that suddenly someone like Dennis Sandow came up with. I will say, as we all know, Dennis Sandow tends to write and tends to say a lot. And sometimes he represents what I think, and sometimes he doesn't. I think that's probably true with a lot of the people who support setting up these committees, support taking advantage of the resources we have here, and to implicate that all of this is done by one man, I think does a huge disservice to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Mr. Connor. I do appreciate those comments. I think the confusion may come from the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Vedera, because I'm confused about this apparently at this point. You told me specifically you drafted that document the morning that you presented it to this committee, when Ms. Genovese actually, in fact, was able to find her copy that was presented by Mr. Sandow last year, and it was virtually verbatim. So I just find it difficult to believe that you were able to come up with something that morning that was virtually verbatim. I mean, word for word.
It wasn't that morning, it was actually that afternoon.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I just find it confusing how you're able to almost come up with a word for word document consisting of probably 200 words that's almost identical to what was presented to me
do you have both
14 months ago. Yes.
Can we all get copies of that?
Absolutely.
I'm not privileged to that right now.
That's fine. Absolutely.
I guarantee you they're not the same, number one. And
okay.
Number two, it's irrelevant because the concepts are going to be similar.
But it's where you're getting your information from is what people are concerned about.
No, I'm getting my information from the decisions I'm taking.
But you're taking credit for something that you're telling me that you did that day. I don't understand that. How could that possibly be?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And the fact that you keep repeating it over and over isn't going to change that. Okay.
Good. Well, we'll put the documents side by side, and we'll
do whatever you want.
See that.
It's up to you. You're entitled to do that.
Good.
It's irrelevant, and besides the point. Nobody in this entire community dictates what I do. I decide my actions are based upon a lot of information and many
But when you pass off things as your information, that's my concern.
I never said that. Never said that. To the contrary, I'm very proud of the fact that I get information from a lot of people, including Mr. Sandow, including Mr. Connor, including Mr. Schlegel, with whom I've had many, many conversations. Who else would like to comment?
It's interesting that it's the same acronym. I really need to address this as well. First of all, I have spoken to Dennis Sandow on occasion, and it's just amazing that whatever he says eventually comes out of the mayor's mouth pretty much verbatim. I also would like, it's really pretty pretty complete. In fact, I can actually go on record stating that I don't know if the mayor's ever had a thought that has not, the genesis has not come from Dennis Sandow. I also, we have some problems with communications, as you know, about the McGovern report. You also know that he was doing some allegations. I'm not going to bring that up because I don't want to be cut off again. But it's not the type of person that you would put on a communications board. Mr. Sandow has, I just Oprah requested his Oprah requests for the last 2 years, and they're about this thick. There's probably about, I'd say, roughly, I don't know, I really don't want to guesstimate, but about 1,000 requests that have tied up our government for the last 2 years. In fact, when I was mayor, I was walking around, and I asked all the employees, what are you doing? And they said, we're working for Dennis. We got to get files, we got to get this, we got to get that. So I just actually asked Mr. Sluka to give us a timeline on how much this one request cost the hours of the employees. Many of them are whom here today. And it was about 7.5 hours that he took up on this one request of our resources. Taxpayer money is paying for these people. And so this is where he's gotten a lot of his information from, which is fine, and I do believe in the Oprah request. It's just that at the volume that has been going on for the last 2 years, it really has tied up our employees. But regardless, the McGovern report has come up with some obviously uncovered things for the public, and to put this man on the communications committee, where all he does is undermine our employees. He'll say to Dawn, this is wrong, your agenda's wrong, this is wrong. Rosalie, this is wrong. And to continually undermine our employees, and when in fact the employees are right, most of the time, I'm not saying all the time, has been going on for 2 or 3 years now. Also, he was dismissed from the library board, and he's now placed on the library board. And there's just, Mr. Sandow has been pervasive in town hall for 2 or 3 years, and he keeps coming up with these allegations as far as Patriot Media, and I don't need to get into them. But basically, I don't know where the positive impact of his being in this town, 1 out of 9,000 people. He obviously has also turned the tide against the police department because of a vendetta that he's had and a grudge. He actually has it in his commentary, put 5 people on that have grudges for the police department, and he's basically the one that has manifested a lot of the grudges and a lot of the negative attitude in this community towards the police department. And when we reached out and worked with them, Deputy Mayor Neville and myself last year, we did hear the concerns of the public, and we did reduce the police department and try to get 2 of the administrative positions, which are your highest paid, to try to get a police department that was a little trimmer and with the same kind of services. And I'm here to say that our police department has had a bad rap for the last 4 years, and the fact that the genesis of it was a grudge is a little hard to take, and I believe our police officers are the finest, and the influence that this man has had is all over.
Go ahead, sir.